All righty. What if the very thing you believe is helping your business is actually destroying it? There was a recent study, and it found that companies with poor delegation habits are 70% more likely to fail within 5 years. Let's talk about it today. We are Nate and Simone, and we talk all things marketing. We would like you, before we get started, to subscribe to this channel so that not only will you be notified when we go live again and when we put up another video, but you'll also be helping other entrepreneurs just like you to get access to this information. So let's get started. Let's talk about poor delegation and why you need to be better at delegating tasks. Hey, Nate.
Hello, hello. I I am guilty of poor delegation, I think, at various times in my business journey. I know many entrepreneurs who are also guilty of this. So I think this is a common experience amongst entrepreneurs and business owners. It's your baby, right? You like this is the thing that you built. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and man, I just you don't want to like let anybody touch it because they might break it, right? Or they can't do it as good as you can, or there's lots of different reasons why you'd want to kind of not have that happen, right? So I
I've
totally
been
get it. I
guilty of
totally
that
get it.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
only really just really realizing the benefits of delegating
Yeah.
and
Totally.
hadn't done it before. I'm just like, whoo, this is life changing. This is so freeing. I love it.
Yeah. Not
I
only
want more.
that,
I want more.
but there's statistics that say that doing so um, can generate up to 33% more revenue in your business
Mm.
and potentially lead to 1,751% growth rate just by, incorporating delegation and doing it, well, right, in your business. So
Yeah.
the upside here, the potential upside to doing so is pretty big. In other words,
Huge, right?
uh,
1,700% growth.
yeah.
That is
Um,
huge.
so those businesses that are struggle with delegation, struggle with offloading tasks, with providing their teams with the information they need to be able to make decisions on their own, um, are far more likely to fail, obviously, right? The one statistic that everybody knows is that 95% of all small businesses fail within the first 5 years. It's probably like 99% for all restaurants, I think, right? But
Right.
it's
Yeah.
something
And
crazy like that.
looking at this statistic, about 70% that don't delegate are
Yeah,
70% more likely to fail within 5 years, made me think
yeah.
about that statistic about all businesses, the 99% that fail within the first 5 years. And I'm thinking, well, how many of those
Was it
is it
70% of 95, you
related
think?
to,
So that's a big one.
yeah, is that related to poor delegation
Yeah,
and the business
yeah.
owner trying to do it all themselves?
That's a lot of businesses. That's a lot of businesses.
Yeah,
So in other words, like, all your blood, sweat, and tears, all your effort is not enough, in other words, right?
not
At
enough.
some point, you reach this point where if you want to continue going, right, you gotta bring in a team. You gotta offload the work and so that you can take a step back and think strategically about the business, right?
Right.
So
And also just for the simple fact that you don't know everything.
yeah,
Like just because say you know how to build websites doesn't mean you know bookkeeping or
yeah,
or
oh yeah.
accounting or marketing or um or you're a doctor. You went to school to be a doctor and you're an amazing doctor. That doesn't mean that you know marketing or
Or or or if you're
know
like speaking of doctors, that doesn't mean that you have great handwriting either, right?
that too, right? Right? Right.
Yeah.
The statistics show that if you are a doctor, more than likely you have awful handwriting.
Awful handwriting, yes. Um, okay. So if we're going to tie this into the V3 growth system, as we always talk about, right? Visibility, right? Those business owners and leaders who are stuck in the execution, they lose that strategic focus. So they lose the vision, right? In other words,
Yeah.
viability, right? Systems are going to break if everything has to go through one person. The bottleneck is not sustainable, you know. And then, of course, if we're working towards building a more valuable business, those businesses that are relying only on the founder, the original owner, are become very difficult to scale or sell, right? Now, that being said, it is true that we are entering into the age of AI and AI bots and teams of AI bots and things like this, which could potentially mean that we have one man or one woman business owners that become trillionaires.
Right. Who was
Uh,
it? Sam Altman that predicted that? He
yeah,
foresees
yeah,
seeing a one-man business trillionaire happen.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I can
Well,
see that it's possible. What I'm finding is that even with I need somebody to run the AI. I need somebody to build my AI agents. I need somebody to create
yeah,
those prompts. And so I still feel like I need people,
yeah.
so
Unless you just happen to be an amazing AI engineer who's also an
yourself,
entrepreneur,
right?
and the business perhaps revolves around that kind of thing. I can see that. You know, maybe you are in the
I
business of
suppose.
helping other businesses with their AI.
Hmm.
Maybe,
You know what's
but
interesting is that I just went to a an AI business summit by Alicia Little,
mhm.
and she is the AI queen. She uses AI to do everything. Even she has a team of people that she relies on.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I did think that was very interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, for the vast majority of us, I think the delegation factor is still going to apply. We're
Yes.
not going to get away from it anytime soon. And, it is part of the research, the vast body of research into, businesses, what makes businesses grow, the steps that they take in order to get to that next level. And from everything that I've seen so far, like one of the crucial steps is when you reach the point where you have to delegate, right? And then
Mhm.
and that you have your choice, right? You either do so and you continue to grow, or you plateau, stay the same, or you fail, or you regress. Those are your choices,
Mm.
basically, at that point. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
So this idea of delegating is extremely important.
yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Hmm.
Um,
So let's talk about why do
yeah.
people struggle to delegate? Why do founders struggle with this? Why don't they want to let go?
Well,
What's
we
going
kind
on
of
there?
we were kind of touched on a little bit. There's a lot of psychology involved here, right? Like people get wrapped up in this thing because they put so much time and effort into it, right? This is the same reason why most business owners think that their business is more valuable than it really is. It's because they are the one who is there doing the work day in, day out and realize how difficult it is. But from an outsider's perspective, looking at, perhaps purchasing the business, what is there to buy? You know, if everything is bound up and inside this one person's head, nothing is documented. There's no real systems involved. It's just kind of like, well, this worked that day, great, and then we try something else the next day, and it's not really a system involved at all. There's no real delegation, obviously. So it's or
Hmm.
anything that is delegated, it's kind of like, ends up being kind of messy and it still requires the business owner to be there to fix all the problems, right?
Right.
That's not very attractive to somebody looking to buy a business. And so, but, like I said,
Absolutely.
that doesn't change the psychology of the fact that you know, the business owner is working on it. They feel like they're putting a lot of effort into it. It's very difficult work. It's hard for them. It's taking up a lot of their time, a lot of their
Mhm.
focus for many years. To them, it's worth a lot, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of a
Oh,
different thing, right? Different
they
angle, a
have
different way of
this
looking
feeling
at it.
like nobody else can do it like I can.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. And you know what? That's actually true. Nobody else is going to do it the way you can, but that's okay. I have let go of the fact that um the people that are on my team are going to do things exactly the way that I think it should be done or that I would do it.
yeah,
I've let that go. I'm like, you know what? If you build it and it works, I'm good. It
yeah.
works. I'm happy. It doesn't
I'm
have to be, exactly the way I would do it.
I'm all for, finding the people that know how to do things better than I do, and hiring.
Hmm.
The ideal scenario would be to hire people smarter than me in whatever different category I'm hiring them for, right?
Exactly.
Because, you may have the vision, I may have the vision for the company, but, maybe I don't have the execution or the knowledge to find the path forward. Um, and so need to bring somebody else in that may have that, and make up for what I'm
Absolutely.
lacking, you know. Voltron. You're
Absolutely.
creating Voltron here. Do you know Voltron? Remember that cartoon?
I remember that. Yeah. From the MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sum of the parts is greater than, the individuals. But
Oh,
anyway,
right. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, and then some people believe that it's, the thing will get done faster if I just do it myself, right?
Yeah.
But no, that's a
That's not
problem
true.
too. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Um,
one thing might get done faster if you do it yourself, but not everything.
you know, the,
Because we talk about entrepreneurs, you're the marketing person, you're the receptionist, you're the Mr. Fix-It person, you're the fulfillment, you're everything.
yeah,
So yeah, maybe one thing will get done faster if you do it yourself, but all of those different things, no.
right.
I've walked into businesses and we talked about this before, or I don't know, when we talked about like AI voice agents. There are business owners who are in their shops. Say you're a brick and mortar business owner, you're in your shop, you're doing the thing, you're doing it very well. You're putting the tires on the car, you're under the hood, you're doing the thing, but the phone is ringing and nobody can get you on the phone. It's going to voicemail,
Yeah,
and then at the end
yeah.
of the day, um, maybe you're that business owner that's just you're bone tired because you've been working all day under these cars, and now you've got to return all these phone calls. And half of those people are not going to answer because they've already moved on
Mm,
to somebody who did pick up the phone. You
mm.
can't do everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it compounds. The not delegating compounds, right?
Yeah.
In lost opportunities, like you said, inefficiencies, client
Hmm.
delivery, it just starts to add up over time, and snowball, which leads to
Absolutely.
potential, failure of the business or regression at the best in that scenario, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess, okay. So I've had some questions here. When does delegation start to feel risky for founders? Start to feel risky for founders.
They
Hmm.
probably feel like it's risky right at the very beginning or right when they're thinking,
Yeah,
I really wish I could just hand this off.
yeah,
But oh, they're not, nobody's gonna do it like I do,
right.
or it costs a lot. I don't have the
Can't
money
find
to
good
hire
help, you
somebody.
know.
Good help is too hard to find,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Might as well do it myself. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it probably feels risky right at the very beginning.
Hmm.
But then again, as an entrepreneur, you've taken a risk to not get a regular job
Yeah,
and start a business. So you've already you've already taken a risk.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's kind of you kind of have to go with that mentality that
Yeah.
you know what, I've already taken a risk. Let's keep
And
taking good risks.
you've taken a chance on yourself, right? But
Hmm.
you have the confidence to believe in yourself because you trust yourself that you're going to deliver for yourself, right? But the person that you're potentially delegating to, they don't own the business. It's none of their concern. They don't have as much skin in the game, perhaps, right? If they are an actual employee, they have all kinds of rules and laws dictating how much time they get off, how many breaks they get, and how much
Hmm.
vacation time and whatnot, and all these other things that you didn't have starting out.
Or you walked away from, right?
Or
Um,
yeah, that you walked away from, yeah.
yeah,
But
I know I walked away
um,
from that.
I guess that's the nature of the beast here, but you're trying to find those people who are good at what they do it well, hiring them, keeping them
And who
around.
will maybe take ownership over
Yeah,
their job or their position.
but you have to be able, ready, willing, and able to hand it off to them and prepare them and like set them up for success. Um,
Absolutely.
it's very easy to kind of like bring somebody on board and sabotage the whole thing because you're still convinced that you're the only one that can do it right. That's
Right.
this is the problem.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's where having good systems comes in. And you plug somebody
yeah,
into a good
if it's
system.
documented, it's documented. You just
Hmm.
hand it over. Say, here, do this. Boom,
Right.
and then do it well, right? Because you know how to do it. This is how I do it. If you can improve on that, fantastic, outstanding. But this should answer all of your questions, right? So I'm just gonna let you all just take care of that. But anyway,
Right.
so speaking from the perspective of the V3 system here, viability, right, requires repeatable execution. So hope by delegating, you are building that into the system, right? Ideally. And if you are, again, relying only on you to do the thing, then you are limiting your throughput. You are creating the bottleneck. And so who wants to buy that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get up here to the next one. Let's look at the real cost if we're delegating poorly, doing a bad job at this. I think we mentioned it already, like lost
Right.
opportunities,
Lost
right? That's
opportunities. Yeah. You only
that's a
have but
big
so
one.
much bandwidth.
The opportunity cost, right? As they say.
Mhm.
Um, and you potentially could increase the chances that you're going to burn out. You know, your brains are fried and frazzled at the end of the day. You lose your I think I read this somewhere or heard this somewhere that you have a finite amount of willpower each day. So every decision that you make during the day taps into that willpower
Mm,
until it's drained by the end of the day, basically. And
that's
so
interesting. Mm.
ideally you want to manage that so that you are, hopefully making the right decisions throughout the day, right? But that being said, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. I've heard also that if you judges, for example, who pass judgment on a defendant before lunch, oftentimes it's a negative decision
Wow.
just because they haven't
Really?
had lunch yet.
Oh my goodness.
Statistically, this is the correlation, not
Don't get
necessarily
the judge before lunch.
causation,
Wow.
but yeah, yeah. Anyway, so there's things like that to consider, right? So it's all part of the that finite bit of willpower there. So keeping
Yeah,
that
and
in
they say
mind,
that's decision fatigue. That's why
yeah, that's a decision fatigue,
Mark
exactly.
Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and those guys, they're high performers and they wear the same thing every day. They pick a uniform, right?
Yeah,
Turtleneck and jeans. This is what I'm wearing. All right.
one less
That's one
decision they have to think
decision that they
about.
don't have to make.
Yeah,
You make enough decisions throughout the day.
To me, I love that. And if I could, I would do that
I
every
think
day.
that's
But
cool.
if
Yeah,
I'm filming myself, it might be kind of weird. But
I know.
I don't know
Yeah,
if anybody
I've
really
thought about
cares.
that
But
too. Like, why don't I
yeah,
just pick a uniform and that's what I wear?
yeah. Um, okay, yeah, a uniform. Call it a uniform. That's good.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty much what it is. It ends
yeah.
up being a uniform. This
Hmm.
is what I'm wearing to work,
A jumpsuit.
and there's no decision there to
Yeah.
be made. This is it. This is what I'm wearing.
Easy peasy.
Easy.
Um, okay, so you also run the risk of having an inconsistent customer experience. One of the things that I'm big on right now is focusing on that customer experience and how I can create a cohesive experience. It's so easy there's so many different platforms out there, and like dashboards and things like that for people to log into and all this stuff. And like,
Hmm.
good grief, it drives me crazy, let alone my clients. I know I'm familiar with it because I do it all day, right? But you know, trying to wade through, Facebook, good grief, and like figure out how to delegate accounts and that kind of stuff. And Facebook, for example,
Yeah.
is a nightmare. But um, there's if you don't have like a fully systematized onboarding process, for example, for your clients, then
Hmm.
you run the risk there of throwing a wrench into the works right off the bat, and giving them a
Hmm.
bad first impression. You only get one chance to make a good first impression, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you want to make that happen and have it be this orchestrated process where they're loving it right from the get-go. Um, and you know even even if there's a demand for your product or your service, if you're unable to reach all of the potential opportunities, then obviously that can stall your growth uh,
Yeah.
trajectory. um, all right, so from thinking about from V3 here, businesses that are not operating, that can't operate without the founder are fragile. That there's little to no viability there, um, as far as being an entity that can continue to grow and therefore become more valuable. And the risks involved with such a situation weigh heavily to those outside buyers or investors who are looking at the business as for potential opportunity. If everything is tied up in the business owner's head, there's nothing documented. There's no way to easily transfer what it is, and that's a pretty big risk. And so um, that can make the decision for you there in that case. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what delegation actually looks like, how we go about this. Um, you were telling me, Simone, about some delegation that you've been doing and whatnot. Can you
Yeah.
walk me through your process here? Do you have all this sorted out and everything?
I have I have most of it sorted out, I think. Um, so I met a lady who runs an agency for assistance in lots of different fields and different skill sets. And I thought, okay, good. So now I have a place to go to find people. What do I want them to do? Um, I had to go through all of my different projects and decide, okay, what do I want to actually delegate? And that depend and deciding what I wanted to delegate had to I had the blueprints. First of all, I had blueprints and like, okay, this is my blueprint over the next 90 days. These are the things I want to get done. Um, and so that determined what I needed people to do. And so, and then that determines what skill sets I need. And so I went to her and I said, okay, I need people with these skill sets.
Hmm.
And I set up a calendar and I said, I have this time open, this date, this time, put in um, when they're available or in those time slots. Just grab that slot and let's do an interview. And she came with a slew of people, and I did a group interview and picked like one or two people out of the bulk of people. After having reviewed their resumes to start with, and then I set up a project management system, added them all to that, signed the tasks, and we meet a couple times a week. And I I do a no fluff meeting because I just want to be efficient, and we do a little small talk at the beginning, and then I have them share their screen and show me what they've been doing, and
Hmm.
I correct anything that's not that doesn't look right or isn't working. Ask them if they
Yeah.
have any questions. Feel free to ask me questions. What do you need? Anything not clear? And and that's it. They're off and running.
Yeah,
Getting
I've
stuff
had
done. It's great.
I think I mentioned I've been looking at, delegating and what that looks like from since I started my own business and figuring out how I can utilize other, resources that are out there to help me grow my business, to help provide, high quality output for my clients. And one of the things I found was that there's almost an endless number of um, available, white resources out there to, especially when it comes to digital marketing, right? There's so many different white label, website makers and this kind of stuff, offshore, onshore, near shore, different levels of pricing depending on what country they're from and all this kind of stuff. And there's different considerations to take into, with the communication involved, depending on what country they're from and all this kind of stuff too.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things that it's kind of a quagmire to a certain degree because, man, it's hard to find the ones that are kind of like a decent price, easy to communicate with, and provide top quality or reasonable quality output, to start with. Um, I had one kind of nightmare scenario where I was working with a group on a project that were, based in offshore, and I was offloading a task of creating something for a client, and I had laid everything out in their project management tool that they were using, all of the milestones and the expectations and that kind of stuff, and they just completely ignored it. Just you know, so total nightmare because I had laid this out and was expecting things at a certain time, didn't get it, and so we did not, we're not able to complete the project on time, which unhappy customer reflects poorly on me, etc. So big risk involved from my
Yeah.
perspective in going that route.
Yeah.
But there are dedicated, groups, companies out there that this is what they do, right? And so,
Hmm.
it's just kind of like you got to find those companies and the ones that, do what they say they're going to do, right? And claim that they're going to do is the trick.
Yeah.
But it's quite a minefield, really, in my experience. But
It is kind of a minefield.
yeah,
I've
and
been
that's without actually hiring somebody, right? This is like
right,
using 1099s, freelancers, other
right.
kind of situations like that. But yeah,
Yeah. Because I remember going to Fiverr before, and and there are some great people on Fiverr, but it's never it. I don't know. To me, they just don't feel like they're part of my team, and they don't feel like they have their set ways of doing things. And if you don't like it, like I don't know, it just never felt um
right, right.
like I can do a whole lot of well. let's change it up a bit. And I don't know, I just felt like people got upset with me if I wanted any changes or anything like that. Um, but yeah, me having them as my team, it
Yeah.
feels different. It
Yeah,
feels better.
definitely.
It feels
I can see
different.
that. Where you've had like kind of like close, intimate relationship where you've made explicitly clear how you operate, what your expectations
Yeah,
are, and that kind of thing. Like that goes a long
yeah.
way for sure. But it takes
And I
time to get to
think
that point, right?
it does.
Yeah.
It does. And then meeting with them multiple times a week. I do short meetings, like half an
Yeah.
hour to 45 minutes at the most. Um, and to see what they're doing and what they've got going on. It stops them from going the wrong direction too far if
Mhm.
they are going in the wrong direction. You get to
Yeah,
see what they're doing, what's going
definitely.
on before
Yep.
they get too far down the wrong path, and you can
Oh,
correct them
yes.
and move in the right direction.
Yep.
Yeah,
Been there, done that.
yeah.
I to the extent to where I was like, I provided a template, said this is the approved template. Please, we're going to
Mhm.
work within this template. Within a day or two, it's like, hey, why don't you show me where you're at and what you're working on? It looked completely different. It was not the template. It was like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I'm glad I caught this within a day or two.
yeah, exactly. It's yeah.
Wow.
Catch
Any-
it early.
Anyway,
It's going off the
um,
rails.
yeah. I'm here. I am. I'm focused on building revenue for my clients, helping them plug the leaks in their business. The last thing I want to worry about is whether or not the person I'm delegating outside work to is able to do that. So it's
Right,
yeah, it's big
right.
thing.
Yeah, like we said, there are risks,
Yep,
that
yep.
it's but ultimately it's better to do it than to not because
When you
like
find
we say,
that the group
you
that
don't want
can
to be the
do it,
bottleneck.
when you find that
Yeah.
group that can do it and the team you've actually found the team, man, it's a miracle situation, really.
Yeah. Like I'm like, I love my people. I want to keep them
Yeah,
forever.
yeah, exactly. There is more risk though with doing it like offshore or delegating that way than there is with hiring. There's a little more, you know, intimate involvement when it comes to hiring someone that's living next to you in the same city, and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But anymore, a lot of people are hiring remotely anyway in the U.S. And so, is it really that different? I don't know. But
Hmm.
anyway, um, so if we look at the V3 growth system in this case, um, visibility is all about clarity, and you want to be clear about your expectations when you're working with these outside providers, whoever that may be, whoever you are delegating to, right? You want to make sure that that um, they can execute without your supervision, right? So that you're not all tied up in making sure that they're, doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing in the right way and that kind of thing. Having these regular meetings is good because it's a scheduled thing, it's expected, and you're not constantly feeling like you have to like send them a text or an email and like, hey, what are you doing? Let me show you, that kind of
Right.
stuff. And so
And they know
um,
what to expect during the meeting.
yeah,
All my people, I told them, come ready to show and tell.
yeah,
What do you have going on? You know?
and documenting this process of delegation, how you go about reaching these people, what the expectation is as far as the meetings and that kind of stuff. That all, you know, if it's documented, if you have your systems and processes, expectations documented, it's much easier for you to just hand it over to them as well, right?
Yeah.
It gets them up to speed a lot faster that way.
Yeah.
Um,
And they keep me grounded and they keep me consistent. And they keep me I guess documenting
yeah,
what it is that needs to be done. Because in order for me to be able to hand it over to them, it needs to be documented.
yep. Kind of
These all
forces
these
you into
tools need
that.
to, it
Yeah,
forces me into that.
good exercise.
So, which is a good thing. Yeah, it's a good exercise.
All right. So, how can we use this to grow our revenue? How can delegation help us here? So, probably one of the best use cases here would be that it frees up time for the business owner to think strategically, so that they can figure out, the best path forward for growing revenue, right? Without that, they're kind of heads down doing the thing, so wrapped up in the day to day, so wrapped up in, decision fatigue and whatnot. By the end of the day, like, they're fried. They just want to go home and veg out, and like,
Yeah, and then it prevents them from seeing the big picture of their
yeah,
business and seeing and really just seeing where the direction, because you could be headed in a certain direction that you don't even realize it because you're just doing the daily grind and not looking at the trends and outside forces that may be affecting your business and seeing where you may need to be pivoting or and making little adjustments and changing direction a little bit because of outside forces or even because of internal forces that could be going on in your business. But if you're head down doing the thing, you can't see any of that. You can't see your business from that 10,000-foot view. And you need
yeah,
to all founders need to step out of their business and have some CEO time, have some time where they can be looking at the business strategically.
yeah. And that is going to translate into your business being able to grow more quickly, right? And more
Mhm,
efficiently, than if you were constantly just kind of like heads down in it, right?
mhm,
It's the difference between being down here looking up and all the mountain of work that needs to be done, right? Or
mhm,
being on
right.
top of the mountain and looking down and seeing everything that has gotten done up
Seeing
to this
what's
point,
coming ahead and seeing
Yeah,
what's past, seeing
what's
the
over the
future,
horizon
seeing
over
where you
here,
are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
This is what Michael Gerber was talking about in his book, E Myth Revisited. There's a
mhm,
difference between being in the business, working on the business, and working in the business.
exactly.
You know, yeah, we all do need to work in our business, but we all also need to be working on our businesses.
And if you have the ability to delegate, then that's just going to compound the value of the business, as we've talked about before. You're going to have more options. You're going to have the ability to scale if you want, and probably control the rate at which that occurs, which is just going to mean that, hey, people will be falling all over themselves to try to buy a business like that if and when it comes time for you to do so. So
Mhm.
that's what we're going after here.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready here for the end? So basically,
So, yeah.
if you
Oh, go
if
ahead.
you're trying to do everything, that feels like the right thing to do, but it's actually more risky. It's not as safe as you think it is. Um, if you are doing a poor job of delegating, or you've had the unfortunate luck of finding of having a hard time finding people that are reliable partners for delegation, then yeah, it kind of does sap your growth, and does increase risk and the odds of failure. So there's some learning hurdles to get
There is
over
a
in that
learning
case.
curve,
Yeah,
absolutely. And what I would say is, if you've had a bad experience hiring somebody, they didn't do a good job, don't just scrap the whole idea
yeah,
and go back to doing it yourself. If you have a goal of making your business viable
mhm,
and you want to be able to take vacations, you want to be able to spend time with your kids and grandkids, you want to be able to go on vacation, you want to do other things than just your business. Say you have a mission to build a homeless community or in your town or something, you want to be able to do some other things, then you have to go back to the drawing board and maybe you had a bad experience in the past hiring people, hiring freelancers, hiring VAs, hiring offshore people. Um, somebody was
Hiring
stealing
actual
in your
workers.
shop or
Yeah.
whatever. You
Yeah.
know, don't throw out the idea entirely. Keep trying. Keep
And if
trying.
you've documented the processes and everything, it just makes it easier every time, right? So you get
Mhm.
them up to speed whenever you do and need to kind of start back over again, potentially.
Yeah.
Um, so
Because
yeah.
like we've seen the statistics. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to delegate, to hire somebody to
Yeah.
take tasks off your plate, admin tasks, bookkeeping, marketing and social media stuff. It behooves you to get people in to be able to take these tasks off your plate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your business can't grow. And what we're all about here is scaling and becoming a valuable business so that one day you can retire, you can sell it, you can go off and and do something else and backpack in Malaysia or something.
Yeah. 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 I was just going to say,
Yeah,
probably like if we want to boil it down, the thing that we're really all about is, helping you, reach your goals. And
yeah,
especially as it fits into the business, right? And how are we going to get there? That's the first and foremost, the most important thing. What are your goals? How are we going to get there?
yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. So delegation is how businesses move from survival to scale. You don't want to just be a business that's in survival
Mm.
because survival mode is really for those beginners. But if you're an experienced business owner, you've been doing this for years, you want to be thinking about scaling. You don't want to be thinking about just continuing to survive.
Yeah, and some people are happy with where they're at, but for those that are not, you know, these are the things you need to consider. So
Yeah, absolutely. So you know doing everything may feel safe, but it's a huge risk. And poor delegation, we've already talked about how poor delegation caps your growth, and it also increases those failure odds, remember, 70%. And strategic delegation builds resilient systems. So when you have those resilient systems in your business, it's easier to swap people in and out if you need to, and helps your business to grow and scale so that because you as the founder are now, you put on your CEO hat, you are looking at your business from the mountain and not from the valley, and you can see everything, and you're the one that's able to steer the ship rather than allowing the ship to steer you, right? You want to be the one wagging the tail and not the tail wagging the dog, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So, if your business can't grow without you, it's not growing, it's depending. So, that's all we have for today. That is our recap. Thank you so much for being here. Any last words, Nate?
no, I was just gonna say, if you feel like you are bumping up against a growth ceiling in your business, you want to figure out what steps you need to take next, then you can get started by taking the assessment on at the link in the description. That'll help you kind of figure out a path forward, sketch it out, and then of course you can book a call with us to if you want to chat it out as well. Happy to discuss and help you get some clarity around that in your business if need be. So by all
Absolutely.
means, get in touch.
And if you enjoyed this, let us know. Put your biggest takeaway in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Have a great week.